Good afternoon. This is Mondays with Wallace. I'm Wallace. Today we are here with our good friend Steve Cotton from SC Edibles. We're here with Carol Lemire, and we today are going to talk about everything cannabis, as we always do. We're going to talk about cannabis prices. The show is going to be formatted around cannabis and cannabis prices. And we're going to start by chatting about a gentleman in 1921 who invented something called insulin. Insulin was essentially is a vital product. People essentially need insulin to live if you're a diabetic. And if you're a diabetic, you typically have to take a shot, especially if you're type 1 diabetic. You have to take a shot every single day to supplement your insulin. If you don't take that shot, essentially you'll die, which is obviously very tragic.
Is that because your sugar's too high or too low?
It's because your sugar's too high. It's too high. What happens is when you eat a sandwich, you eat candy, your body really needs that glucose. It's a normal thing, and your body needs the insulin. The insulin makes the glucose go into your cells. So without that, you essentially would die. And diabetes has been around a long time. It's been around in dogs. If you have dogs, you'll notice that it's something that dogs will use. And the first insulin, which was developed in Toronto, Canada, the first insulin was from a dog. And that's when it was started. Now, why does that relate to cannabis? And the reason that relates to cannabis is because we are talking about cannabis prices. Stephen, how are you finding cannabis prices today?
Cannabis prices seem to be dropping here in Southern California. With the dispensaries opening up on every corner, seems like they're getting competitive and prices are dropping, but the quality also seems to be dropping. People don't seem to want the good stuff anymore. They want bang for their buck.
Oh, is that right? So people are basically looking for the cheaper product, or they're looking to spend less money, or
they're looking to spend less money and get more smokes out of it. They don't want as much as the quality. It used to be everybody wanted the good kush, the good top shelf kush. Now people want to go into the dispensaries and want to know what deals are going on, what sales are going on, what specials do you have. They're more enticed by the deals and specials than the top shelf kush. How much is cannabis per gram?
I
say on a per gram, it's maybe about $10 to $15 per gram. Per eighth, you're looking at about $30 to $50 per eighth.
Per eighth, I see. So
ounces are going for about $200 to $300.
$200 to $300. And are we finding that's up? Or are we finding that's down?
That's down compared to back in the day. It was harder to get. It wasn't on every corner, so it was harder to get, and prices were up. People were getting $300 for an ounce real easily.
We also have with us Brandon Tidwell. Brandon, how are you today?
Doing well.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Today we're talking about marijuana prices, cannabis prices, and we're talking about that relative to drug prices. Drugs, and I'm sure you all will argue with me this, drugs are something you absolutely need. You absolutely have to have it. And we're formatting cannabis into a situation where you absolutely need it, or you absolutely have to have it also. If you're hooked on anything, you're absolutely going to need it, and that allows us to drive the prices up. Like anything. Carol, your specialty is hair, I believe.
Yeah, but they don't use cannabis.
They don't use cannabis in your hair?
No.
Can I ask you?
But I did do some research on what you're doing today.
Carol does, if you know Carol Lemire, if I can mention, Carol did, can I mention whose hair you did?
Well, let me finish telling you what I came up with. I went in there and looked, and it's talked about how cannabis is cheaper, 30% cheaper in Canada than here. It also did say prices are kind of pricey for the good stuff. It made a point of telling you that.
And cannabis, it's more expensive for the good stuff, right?
Well, that they were saying that it's gotten to where it's more expensive, that people will sell some stuff out there that isn't, but I was reading a whole thing where it was.
What do you think about prices here in LA right now, B? cannabis prices?
The market is so saturated out here that the prices have really dropped big time within, I would say, like the last year or so. Maybe
Okay, so when I was, and of course I don't smoke cannabis, as you all know, but when we were buying cannabis back in the day, let's say in the 70s, Carol, what was the price of, say, a bag of, what was a bag of?
Nothing, $5.
So for $5,
I
you would
used to
get.
sell weed back then, and you could get a pound for nothing.
Is that right?
That was that
But
swag.
then
look.
everything was cheaper too.
It wasn't any quality
But
weed.
the
either.
quality
It
was-
very quality.
no.
Believe me,
Yeah?
I have smoked weed from now, because I was like a kid when that Vietnam War, and I smoked weed as a young kid.
You guys had the good
Was
stuff?
way more powerful than what I've smoked now, without putting nothing in it. I
So-
mean, I could actually be driving, and I would leave my car thinking the police were chasing me, or walk down a hallway and hear feet. I don't get that anymore from weed, not in the least bit. Weed was very powerful because I think it was coming in from maybe Vietnam and different places, but it was very powerful.
You know, you're absolutely right. They were importing wheat from Vietnam at one time. But weed is pure now. There's no doubt about it. And weed today, from what I know, you don't get seeds. It's a pure product. It's a genetically isolated product. And that goes back to insulin. When insulin first was developed, again in 1921, to make a vial of insulin, you had to actually use not cats. I'm sorry. You had to use cows and pig. And even to this day, insulin, if you know anyone that's diabetic, you'll see them look for bovine insulin. And bovine means, anyone know? Well, there you go.
Cows and pigs,
Bovine means cow.
Are you saying they tested it on them?
Or they'll use pork insulin.
So they're creating insulin from these animals.
They're creating it from animals. That's where
I
insulin
don't
initially
need that.
was created. And insulin was initially created from dogs, and it was isolated. And what had happened is there was a little 13-year-old boy. This is back in the, I think, early 20s. This little boy, he was really losing a lot of weight, which is typical to diabetics. And you get an acidotic, whereas your breath smells like, what does your breath smell like when you're acidotic? Do you know, Lee? I'm here with Lee Michaels, who's my producer. We always ask Lee to come with a lot of knowledge, and unfortunately, Lee's not bringing it today. but we love Lee, and
When your breath smells like ass. That's what it is.
So why?
well,
would you be
it's kind of
smelling
a
ass?
well. Actually, your breath is acidotic, so your breath actually has the smell of like plums or of like a fruit, because it's like almost like a fermenting fruit, and that's typical of diabetes. What happens is you get what's we call polydipsia, polyuria. Polydipsia is when you have to go to the bathroom frequently, and polydipsia is when you have to drink frequently, and polyuria is when you go to the bathroom frequently. And you also get you can start to see mental changes. If your blood sugar is really low, typically your blood sugar is in the neighborhood of about 70 to 150 or 300. But if your blood sugar is, let's say, 20 or 40, you would have like a drunken stupor.
At what age do you need to start getting tested as young black men for diabetes and things like that?
Diabetes can happen in children.
It does. It does happen in children, and it's called juvenile diabetes is what it's called. And we're not sure even what the cause is of juvenile diabetes, but the feeling is that it may be autoimmune type disease where it just destroys your pancreas. Your pancreas is what produces insulin. And since you don't have a pancreas to produce insulin, you use isolated insulin from cows or pigs or pork. Insulin started out being $10 a vial. When I actually visited Eli Lilly. Eli Lilly is the company that developed insulin for the first time in Toronto, Canada, and they were, as I spoke to their researchers, they were really disturbed that it was so hard to make a vial of insulin, and they had this big chart, and the chart had where one vial of insulin had to be isolated from about 20 cows. And that one vial of insulin, which had to be isolated from 20 cows, do you know what that vial of insulin cost? That's a good guess. It was $10. And not only was it $10, but you could also buy it over the counter.
There's a guy at the beach. He's got 2 daughters that have diabetes. He showed me on his phone. He has an alert that is tapped into them somehow, where he knows right if they're at school and something's going on with their sugar.
The technology, the technology is amazing. They have now things that you can actually affix to your body, where it'll alert your phone where your blood sugar's at.
Yeah, it alerts him or his kids.
Yeah, so they actually have things like that. But so the researchers said, they had said to me, they says, you know what's going to happen, Wallace, is we're going to one day be able to produce insulin in a laboratory. And when we can produce insulin in a laboratory, that will bring the price way, way down.
Well, why did the prices go so high? I mean,
that's my point.
Curious, they never paid that before.
When you actually get these drug companies, similar to marijuana, drug companies, and I think there was just a thing on who's the guy who does the cigarettes? Marlboro cigarettes, and Marlboro now they're getting into it. You sent me, Carol sent me a really nice piece about
their package.
Marijuana's taking over, but I got to tell you, it's going to raise the price.
Yeah, because
the prices are going up.
I was going to buy stock, and 2 stockbrokers told me don't. They said once tobacco companies drop in, you can forget it.
Yeah,
it's not going to be, your stock will be worth nothing because they're jumping in already.
In 1984, sure. In 1984, a flight to Los Angeles from Toledo was how much money? 1984. Coach? I only fly coach. That's all I could get. I've never been first class.
$150.
No, it was a little more than that.
About $300, $200-300. The price has really remained the same, basically.
For what?
A price for a LA flight to Detroit or Toledo. When you look at cigarettes, cigarettes prices were in any guys smoke cigarettes? Cigarettes, Lee? So how much were cigarettes in 1984?
Well, depending on where you were at, but a little over $1 a pack.
$1 a pack, right. And a pack of cigarettes now are, Brandon? About $10 a pack, and a lot of it's the drug, not the drug, but it's the regulation and the taxes, and that's what we're looking at with marijuana. So it's a little alarming.
So, do you think marijuana can mess with the lungs? Because a friend, I'm sure Walter knew her too, Angel. This young lady just died because she smoked, and every time she was in chemo, she would tell you about a song, but she would tell people about the smoking, because first they took half her tongue. But she passed away about, I'd say, a month ago. They had thought it went away, and it came back, and they told her there's no cure. So a lot of people go to, I think, Texas and Mexico to try the natural cures. But
I've never been a fan of the natural cures, and I never will be a fan. I'll tell you,
I'm going to have a woman come on the show.
We would invite her. You can't beat pharmaceuticals. There's no way. You're going to sell me that marijuana can replace pharmaceuticals. There's just no way. Financially,
it isn't always just marijuana now. See, that's where you're a little confused.
It can replace certain symptoms, not maybe high pain symptoms, but there are other things that can treat.
I sent the thing to people I got from doctors, and I'll send it to you, where it's not just marijuana. They're swearing on lemon right now, and I'm sure you know about that. They're trying to create a lemon pill, the pharmaceuticals, because they have proven that if you take a lemon and every day of the week you can freeze them and you shred them and grate them and put them on your food, or I do it in my drinks, but I don't do it every day like I should. They're swearing on it, and these are doctor clients I have. I'll give you an article, and you can read it. I'll send it to you right now.
I certainly trust what you're saying.
And it's telling you, and this particular doctor is furious because they don't want people to know this. Pharmaceuticals, they're trying to create a pill right now, and almost every doctor knows about that.
Well, and I'm surprised we don't want to start replacing pharmacists. That's what we don't want to do, start replacing pharmacists.
Why? If you think it could cure somebody and save lives, you don't care?
I was back in Georgia a few months ago, and Georgia has these old-time pharmacies. And, these old-time pharmacies, you can actually go in and get some ice cream. You can get something for your blood pressure. Heck, you can even go in and buy a Bible. That's what you want to maintain. That's what pharmacy is. Pharmacy's a place where it works. You go in, you feel good. You get a chance to talk to a pharmacist. We tell you just how good you're going to be and how good you're going to get, Carol.
See, I don't agree with you there, because if there's cures that can cure people with cannabis, I sent you a whole list of things that cannabis helps. And if you looked on that list, it was pretty extensive.
Rocky Road, ice cream, Vicodin.
I mean, there was no Vicodin or nothing on there. I mean, I don't see where people die from taking cannabis, but I see where people OD from taking pharmaceutical products. And I mean, if it wasn't true, why are they monitoring them now? A doctor can't just give them to you any longer. Now, why is that? You can answer that one.
I always like to add a disclaimer on our show. We don't advocate, or I don't advocate the use of Vicodin or marijuana or anything. But whatever your needs are, we're happy to support your needs. And we try to just be a foundation of information and an abundance of knowledge for anyone that wants to use cannabis. Steve Cotton, exceptionally knowledgeable. Always appreciate you being here. Brandon Tidwell, we always appreciate you being here. When we're talking about prices relative to food products, edibles are really, really, really common now. Mm-hmm. And the most remarkable thing to me about edibles, and where I think that, I wonder, where can you make money in edibles? So where's the way to make money in edibles nowadays, Brandon?
What exactly do you mean when you say?
So if I'm going to regulate, society makes, the reason marijuana is so popular now, and the reason it's accepted now, is because of the ability to tax it, the ability to endorse it and get money for your community. So where can I tax your money? Like, where is my money? Where am I taxing you now? If you have a store,
to get into the dispensaries, you're getting taxed.
Do you know the tax rate? I don't know this, of course.
I don't know the tax rate, but we have to get tested, and the product has to be packaged a certain way to get into the dispensaries, and that's where we're getting taxed at. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the tax rate is.
What I was thinking is we were talking about butters, and butters. If you're going to do edibles, to me, the butters, coconut oil, olive oil, and there was another vehicle. What was the other vehicle? Are those the vehicles that you would commonly use for edibles?
Yeah, that or alcohol.
Alcohol?
Yeah, you can use an alcohol as well.
You can do alcohol? Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah, because the alcohol compounds helps extract the THC.
So but does the alcohol, is it eliminated, or I can't imagine alcohol? And although it seems like I remember when I was in pharmacy school, what some people would do, they would get the 200 proof alcohol. 200 proof alcohol, what percentage of alcohol is that? Do you know?
Oh, that's a good question.
100%.
That is 100%. That is 100% alcohol. And what people would do is they would actually drip it over the marijuana before they smoked it. Now, do people still do that, Brandon? Do you know?
We do that with concentrates. So you can take like a wax or a very dense oil, and you can kind of just heat it up just a little bit so that it's very liquidy. Yeah. And you can drop a little bit on a bowl and people smoke it, and it kind of intensifies the high.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys are actually following. You can follow us on SoundCloud. We're on Facebook. And this is Mondays with Wallace. Now, Steven's clenching over here. He's like, oh, my God. So I know this must be powerful stuff.
No, man, people do get drunk and high at the same time. We have products. We have a Hennessy. We have a Patron right now.
Is that right?
Where people can get drunk and high at the same time.
But you see where that's going to hurt you, though, because the big man's stepping in.
The big man's stepping in.
Because
that's the point of our show.
Like I told you, he's now come up with a wine, and it's sold like that. So that's why a lot of these things, like I was saying, investment-wise, it's going to hurt because they've already got all this. And if you think about it, people don't smoke as much. So tobacco probably don't sell like it used to. But by now bringing in I sent him, I think, a picture of a package, how Marlboro's packaging it already. They've already ready to go. So you can see what's going to happen. The big man's going to knock the small man out.
People love alcohol.
And then Amazon's going to step in. We all know that. Amazon's going to start delivering.
Tobacco and beer sales are way down.
Tobacco
way down, way down, way down because people are smoking. People are lighting up, and I'm not a fan of it. I don't. I don't
People
advocate
been
one or the
smoking
other.
for years. Come on.
But they're smoking in a big way now.
No,
and if you
I
think
think
Budweiser or Marlboro or
they're gonna take
if you
over.
think they're going to leave that money on the table,
No, they're
I
going
got
in.
news for you. They are coming for you.
They are. They've already doing it.
They're coming for you.
But see, what he does, they're not going to hurt him because he does bakery stuff.
Yeah.
My friend that we talked to, I think you were here. It was me and you and him.
Donna.
She made a fortune selling edibles and making her own cannabis. I mean, bakeries will do well.
Yeah, for sure.
Once you can literally legalize it and sell it right out in the open. I mean, weed stores do, but when a bakery opens, he's going to knock the weed stores out some. Watch and see. Eventually, you'll be able to go into a grocery store. If you get in there fast enough, you'll be the one to get your product in there.
Yeah, for sure.
Well,
So that's where the
I'm a
money will
little
be, too.
concerned about the bakery goods. And you know what I propose to you, Brandon, if you and Steven, if you guys can do this, I think we really need to limit our products to being with butter 7 grams per stick. I think if we can do that and even nationally, if anyone's listening, we do have a lot of people that follow us on SoundCloud and they listen to our show on the Power of Voices, Facebook and Power of Voices. And I'm thankful for everyone. If you all are doing edibles, try to stay with 7 grams of marijuana or cannabis per stick of butter.
It kind of relates
That's
back
about
to
right.
alcohol, though. I mean,
Well, same.
you have different proofs of alcohol. There are people that want the alcohol real strong, and people
Yeah.
so you're not going to be able to control that. I can tell you that right now. Because
Well,
that's a good point.
if you read back on alcohol, see what happened. It started. That's why we have alcoholics now, because they'll drink vanilla if they can't get liquor because
But
it has
by
alcohol.
the
I'm just
same
telling
token, if you can
it'll
get-
be the same thing with weed.
People can customize it to make it as strong or as weak as they
Yeah.
want. But for testing and dosage purposes, you want to try to stick to somewhere between 7 grams per stick and 28 grams per pound, right?
Yep.
Just for dosage purposes.
So a pound, I've got a pound at being 30 grams.
A pound of weed or a pound of butter?
A pound. We're talking about a pound of butter.
A pound of butter is what, 30 grams?
I always thought it was. Is that wrong or am I right?
No, that can't be right.
A pound is a pound?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, for those people that
Pound is more than 30 grams.
60.
no, actually, I believe a pound is 454 grams.
There we go.
454
Sounds
grams.
about right.
See, in the
Now-
United States, I think they use a different term,
Well,
an easier one.
yeah.
Because if you look at
in
a
the
lot
country,
of recipes, they're going to tell you put a cup of cannabis butter or oil in there. They'll tell you that.
well, I'm okay
Because
with that.
that's what they're going to understand. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, absolutely, and I agree with you. I think one thing where we differ is in the world, people use grams and centimeters as opposed to pounds and cups and that kind of thing. So whereas a cup is thought to be 240 milliliters, I guess a pound is 454,
Grams.
and a stick, I would imagine, would be. I would thought to be maybe an ounce.
Quarter of a pound.
Exactly.
A stick is a quarter of a
Yeah.
pound.
Yep.
So
So four sticks in a pound.
So 4 sticks in a pound. Okay, well that works for me.
8 times 4.
Ounces in a pound.
So I think what I'm really trying to advocate is that we just stay with the 7 grams. So you can at least know, and anyone that's listening, that anyone that tries to make butter, to make cannabis butter, we should probably try to stay with 4 grams. But how do you get to 7 grams? I'm sorry. How do you get to 7 grams in a stick of butter? Now I've
People
got.
usually, for the recipe, people usually make it per pound. They don't make just a stick of butter. They usually make it per pound. So they
And
follow
a pound
the
is
ratio.
4 sticks.
Exactly.
4 sticks. So you're following a ratio. So tell me, so I've got marijuana plant, I've got our Kush on our shelf, and I'm wanting to make it into butter. Brandon, how do we do that? How do we make, what are the steps to make cannabis in my yard to a stick of butter?
Just to keep it simple, it's really just putting the cannabis and the butter together, letting it cook for enough time that the fat molecules in the butter can suck out the THC. So that, I mean, that's pretty much what it is. It gets a little more complicated actually, and there are other methods that you can use. There's different methods, but that pretty much is the philosophy: is heating it up, extracting the THC, and then taking what's left, which is the butter, and then using that to infuse any foods that you would want to eat. Or
if you don't know the answer, it's okay because I don't know the answer. But could you use margarine or fat-free butter? Is that something you could use?
You can actually with edibles. One of the better butters to use is clarified butter.
Is clarified butter?
Clarified butter, yeah.
I'm not familiar with that.
It's like butter, but it doesn't have the cream in it, so it stays very very liquidy, kind of. It doesn't have that dense consistency.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Is that right?
So, and it just it's easier to work with. You know, it melts easier. You can mix it in easier, so it's not.
So how are you knowing if it's 7 grams? Like at what point are you? Oh, this is 7 grams.
We use a scale. We use a scale and we measure out the grams, and then you try to make sure that you can microdose, which means you can put 7 grams into 1 stick of butter just to make sure that that stick is going to have the maximum potency. Or we can do it like Steve mentioned earlier. You can just do a full pound and infuse the pound.
So when you're measuring it, are you actually taking there's a precipitate that comes out of the cannabis. So when you take the cannabis, you're boiling it down and you get that precipitate. Is that what you're talking about? 7 grams of that?
When you say precipitate, what are you referring to?
Precipitate means that when you grind some people will take their cannabis and they'll grind it up. And when they grind it up, there's like a white powder or there's a consistent. Is that THC?
Shake. When you grind up the flour.
Shake was the word. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
When you grind up the flour, you take your buds, you put it into a grinder, it becomes shake. And the white part of it is usually the THC crystals. So,
is that what we're coming up with our 7 grams from? Is that? Because I'm trying to figure what my 7 grams is. Is it?
It's THC.
It's THC.
What does THC stand for? B?
Tetrahydrocannabis.
Yeah.
Tetrahydrocannabis.
Yeah.
There we go. We just know that's the part that gets you high.
No, sure.
We don't know the pharmacist term for it. We know THC gets you high. CBD heals you and treats you, and THC gets you high.
Carol, I'm curious, and not we're kind of moving around here, and forgive my listeners. So hair, you still do hair, right?
Yeah, or I wouldn't be living. I wouldn't have.
Yeah. So
I work.
I noticed that someone broke into a hair place and they stole someone's hair. They stole hair.
They've been doing
the
that
fake
a lot.
hair. So how much does hair cost? That's got to
It
be?
depends on where you buy. I buy very expensive hair.
Oh, I know
I don't
everything
use cheap
you
hair
do
on
is
my clients.
great. So how much does hair cost?
It depends. There's places you can buy hair that's in a package, maybe for $100.
Is it real hair or?
Oh, it's human. Now, if it doesn't say 100% human, legally they can mix a synthetic in there, which is unfair to the client because when they hit heat to that synthetic's gonna.
It's gonna frizz up.
Yeah, no, it's gonna melt.
Yeah.
But I buy good hair, and good hair can run anywhere from 85 an ounce to 200 something an ounce.
And do you find that price has stayed the same, or
No,
has that?
absolutely not. Used to be you could get good hair for 25 an ounce.
Where does someone get good hair? Is that someone like me would donate hair, or like where would you get good hair?
A lot of your hair comes from Italy. I can't let out all the secrets now. I wouldn't do that. European hair is usually Russian hair because it's very fine. And people sell that for a lot of money. I myself don't like that hair because it tangles easy.
Oh, is that right?
I like what they call Italian. I can't say if it's really Italian. It's all in the person that knows how to process that hair and make it great.
And
because
forgive me,
that's what it
I've
is.
always thought that hair, and I'm sure I'm wrong about this because I'm not knowledgeable. I've always thought hair was from like horse hair, like the mane of a horse. Is that wrong?
No, it comes from real people.
Oh, I see.
Like blonde hair. Most blonde hair comes from people with gray hair. It's easier to change
is that right?
color, yes. And don't ask me how they get it. I don't know if they rob grave sites or what they do.
So
I don't
where
really
do they
care.
get the fake? So what is the fake
A lot of your hair
stuff?
comes from India, China, Japan, and then there's people that every time they brush their hair, they know how to take it out of the brush where the root's up. Because if that root gets turned around, you're in trouble. That's why people, when they think they can just cut some hair off and put it on somebody's head, that's not necessarily true.
Is there a market to people to donate hair, or can I go sell?
Well, a lot of people
can I go sell hair?
is from poor countries.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, where 10 cents is a lot of money to them. A lot of hair that people donate here go to cancer places for people that will make hair pieces. I mean, I have friends that will donate a hair piece to somebody with cancer.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So I had seen in the past, and I know years ago, we were going back to 1984, or actually in the 70s, marijuana did come in from Vietnam.
It did. And
It was
great.
really very, very common.
Great.
Yeah. And I'm just because I'm not knowledgeable, has hair always come in from these places? Or
I would think it comes a lot. I go to people and they might say something's Italian, but to be honest, what I tell people, it's all in the processing. And you got people that really know how to process that hair and make it beautiful hair.
So you would mix it with something? So if you were making hair
they have to clean that hair. There was a woman in Beverly Hills that opened a place and she was buying raw hair and putting it on people. Well, you got lice eggs on that hair.
You have lice eggs on the hair?
Sure,
Lice,
you have
lice is horrible.
eggs can be on it. They have to clean that. But people don't understand that. Don't try to eliminate the middleman.
Yeah.
Because that middleman is very important unless you know how to do it.
Sure.
And then people where they're fooled too, they use more of a textile coloring when they're coloring hair. They don't use like something we buy off the shelf. They know how to work with textile coloring because every time you mix a color like red and blue, you come up with a different color. It's the same theory with when they do textile. Like when they do blondes, I know a lady that used to be on Crenshaw, and she was I learned from her. I actually went to her to learn certain things. And she would take hair and she'd put it in textile bleach. And she'd mix it with water and let that hair soak in there and bring it up to the colors that she wanted.
That's interesting.
There's a lot of tricks to that.
So cannabis is basically a green color. I've seen slight variations. Do we use coloring products in cannabis at all?
No.
You had some just fantastic desserts. And was there any, but they had the same color consistency of regular desserts. So if you take your shake, is your shake colored, or why doesn't it have the green tint?
Well, it depends. So, I mean, it depends on what you're using to infuse your butter, right? If I take the actual plant and I put it in butter, the plant is green.
Right.
But you know what I mean? So your butter is going to be green. But if I use a concentrate like I do, then your butter is going to look like regular butter and it's going to taste like regular butter. You're not going to taste the weed taste because they have a way of taking that out through their distillation process.
I see. Well,
Plus, if they make a red velvet cake, I don't know if you guys do this, but I just add red coloring.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And see, a lot of people don't know that. They go, wow. Because actually, it's really just a great chocolate cake to me with red dye in it. So if the weed was to pick up a color, it's going to get dyed right with it.
Yeah.
And see, one thing I don't like is they sell weed now where it's all clean. But in a way, that's because they can make double their money because they're taking the seeds out. So you have your seeds, right?
Yeah.
So they can sell those seeds. But I still have friends. I'll call them and say they call me here in the morning, or I call them, and I can hear them. I'll go, you're rolling a joint. And they go, how do you know? I said, because I can hear you separating it. I can actually hear them when they're pulling the
is that right? And they're separating.
People will buy a pound themselves if they smoke a lot of weed. They're going to buy a pound because you can usually get a better price with a pound.
And what are you separating?
The seeds.
The seeds. But I always thought you didn't see seeds so much
you're
anymore.
Getting everything out
Good
of there.
weed doesn't have seeds. So it's genetically grown so the female plant
Vietnam
doesn't have
weed
seeds.
Did so.
Exactly.
Vietnam
Back then they had
seeds.
seeds and swag, and it wasn't that good a weed then.
Oh, Vietnam weed was amazing.
Vietnam
I can
weed.
tell you that right now because when I used to smoke it, I was known to jump out of my car and leave it running because I think I'm running from the police. I remember once I was driving, I borrowed somebody's car, and this weed was so powerful that it kind of, when I got in the wreck, it was like I was dead or something. I was bent over a steering wheel, and I heard people screaming, "She's dead!" And I could, the cops in my mind, I was just tripping. And I remember they picked up my head and they said, "No, she's high." Next thing I knew, I'm in jail. But I don't realize I'm really in jail. That's how high I was off of Vietnam weed.
Wow.
What did the
But do
Vietnam
you
people
suppose
know about
maybe
I don't
it
weed?
was-
know what they put in it, but it was good weed.
That's the opium.
Oh, is that right?
No,
Yeah,
it wasn't angel dust. It was
opium.
weed.
it was weed. But I'll tell you.
Opium, it's something they did used to sell, and on the reservation they grow peyote wild. Even in Montana, I can remember the swamps. There's a little kid getting the peyote buds, and that.
I'm fortunate enough to see a lot of veterans, and a lot of the veterans they seem to have trouble with heroin. So I'm wondering if maybe some of the marijuana was laced with
Yeah, I
heroin.
don't
Or
agree with that. I think the younger generation seems to have a problem with heroin. You're
Well, it's
seeing
certainly
more and
a
more of that,
problem.
right? Am I correct?
Yeah,
I
big
see
time.
more older people.
I see more
see
younger
younger people
people
with it?
now. I see young
Middle age.
kids, young,
Middle age, late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah.
It seems like it's
around
pretty
that
common.
age.
so
I mean,
how
I know people from Vietnam and they don't do no heroin.
so
They might smoke a lot of weed now.
let me ask you, now we're going back to my insulin, and whereas you absolutely need it, got to have it. Where are we with weed? Are we at the point where you need it, got to have it? Alcohol. Alcohol is a need,
Steve.
it, got to have it.
There was a question I asked Steve a couple of weeks ago. Remember I asked you, I said,
Mm-hmm.
don't you believe that the way people are smoking it now, you can get addicted the same as drinking?
Yeah.
And remember what your answer was to me. I don't know if you want to share
You
that
gotta
answer.
have it. Weed is very addictive.
Yeah, and he'll tell you you
Extremely
stopped,
addictive.
right? You
Yeah.
said from he's.
I'm
tell me
right
what
back
you told
on
me.
it. It's so strong
Yeah.
that I'm right back on it.
So you see what I'm saying?
It's Christmas and
it
I'm
could
smoking
be
again.
harmful to a degree
It's very addictive.
because people do it. I have friends that do it from the time they get up. Now they all think I'm weird because I don't. I really don't, and it's just not something I want. I don't want to be high all the time. I really
Me either,
don't.
Carol.
I think alcohol.
Yeah, but you're hooked.
I don't want to be high all the time.
So you
either.
need to be put in rehab.
Yeah.
I need help. I need to do something. I don't want to smoke as much as I do.
Alcohol
And he's
is one of
being
those
very
things.
serious,
Oh,
Steve.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. And we're obviously thankful for Stephen. One thing I have noticed about you, Stephen, is you seem to really be productive, though. Even if this is your argument, you're saying, man, I'm hooked. But you
I'm
always seem to
productive,
be.
But I always tell you, Wallace, that I would be more productive if I wasn't smoking weed.
Is that right?
I mean, I love weed. I'm a cannabis supporter.
But your
I'm-
voice doesn't
I'm
slur.
just-
and
I'm
same thing,
just-
Brandon. I
No,
don't know
you're
if you
just high.
smoke.
You're
I'm
high
straight
all
to
the
the
time.
point. You would
Yeah.
get more done. I'd be more productive. I'd be more further on in life if I wasn't smoking weed.
Yeah, because there's people they can't go.
Yeah.
I
without
think it's
it.
hurting our generation.
It
I think
is.
it's making our people lazy.
I'm not
back in
naming
the
names, I've
back in the
seen it.
day, people had more of a drive. People just went out and got it more. Our whole generation, man, they want to roll up, get high, and sit on the couch somewhere instead of going out and
Well,
figure out
that's
how
why
they're
he
gonna.
said sex isn't as much as it used to be. Like with kids, I looked up that survey.
Of course.
And you were right.
Oh, yeah.
Now, do you smoke weed a lot?
Yeah, I do. Every day. Every day. And
But
for me,
Now,
you're
does it
another
help
guy,
you?
and I'm just
Because
looking at you.
I know,
I'm happy to be here with you, and you seem like you're really functional.
yeah,
And
I mean, I have a pretty high tolerance. So for me, it keeps me functional.
So
for
let's
somebody
say,
who,
could you stop for a month?
I could. It would be a challenge.
Yeah.
It would be a challenge because
So in a way, it is
yeah,
addicting.
it is. You know, the thing you were talking about, the Vietnam weed, the thing that's changed is that they now can genetically modify the plant.
Easily.
Yeah.
So
Easily.
when there are effects that a certain strain is giving, like maybe it's making you very tired, or maybe it's, making you very paranoid. They now have genetically modified it so that you don't necessarily feel that type of paranoia, and it still keeps you functional.
Now, do you get the munchies?
Yeah, I mean, after a
'Cause I've
while,
noticed
That's the number one reason I smoke. I love the munchies. Love the munchies. I don't even like the high. I get paranoid when I'm high.
So what
but
do
the
you eat
munchies,
when you're on the munchies?
cinnamon toast crunch.
Wow.
what is the munchies?
The munchies is when after you smoke a blunt and then you get this appetite that is just out of this world. When I say the appetite is out of this world, you want to eat everything. And I miss that appetite. I can't eat like I used to. So weed helps me with that appetite. I'll eat my meal, your meal, Lee's meal, Carol's meal. I'll eat everyone's meal.
and it helps a lot of cancer
Oh, I have a
patients too.
friend like that. He waits to see what you are you going to finish
Are you
that?
going to kill that?
I was thinking about taking it home and maybe eating
Man.
it later. But he does.
I'm
Every
over
time
the
you're out,
high.
he's like, are you going to eat all that? He's just watching to see because I never eat everything. I'll eat half and then take the rest and
The
eat it later.
munchies.
You know, when you actually eat dinner, you're really supposed to eat salads later because the salads work as a digestive digestive aid.
Help you break down
So
food.
I'm wondering if the munchies, is it a psychological thing that you're feeling, or is it something that where you actually physically feel like you need to eat, or is it just you just desire to eat?
I think it's a craving.
All of the above.
Part of
All the
it.
above. And then once you finally do eat after the munchies, you just want to go into a coma. It's like Thanksgiving all over again. You want to lay down.
Not, actually, they have a joke about that. They go,
Man,
a white person, anybody white, I'm not racist now. They say a white person runs out and wants to exercise right after because they've eaten all this stuff. They say a black person wants to lay down and sleep, and a Hispanic will work. So it's really funny because when you think about it, I do have Caucasian friends. They run out and they want to jog now. I'm going to go jog.
Carol, now I understand that you have a American Indian or Native American
I'm a registered
lineage.
Indian.
So what do you do?
I don't really smoke anymore.
And what did you
that
do?
little vape thing once in a while, but I don't know how dangerous that is. I might take one hit.
when you
I
vape,
get
what do you
high
like to
on
do?
life.
Do you like to read or do you like to cook? What do you like to do when you take the little vape pen?
I relax and I sleep. That's why I do it, because
She's got that
sometimes-
Indian in her. She
Yeah,
likes
she's
to
got
lay
that
down.
American
Yeah,
Indian.
I lay down.
She
I
like to lay
relax
down.
and
But
I
I
sleep.
think Indians did a lot of the peyote, I believe.
Yes, they did.
And
When
peyote
that's what was
is
in the peace pipe.
in the peace pipe, but
Yes.
peyote is a type
Oh,
of
it's a high now.
it's type of LSD. I thought. Am I right about that?
I don't know. Is that why I was
It's,
always?
certainly hallucinogens.
I
Yeah.
didn't hallucinate.
Yeah.
When I saw peyote.
The thing with alcohol, going back to alcohol, is a lot of people, and I've worked with professional people that actually cannot function unless they're having a drink, and we even at certain hospitals, you even can have alcohol on call for them. If we at a couple places in LA, if you have patients that are admitted that are upper echelon or celebrities, you'd actually give them a
Yeah,
glass
but
of
don't
wine.
they give them something that makes them sick if they do drink?
We can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. That's one thing about pharmacists. Anything you think you need, I got. Absolutely.
See, I've noticed too, since weed has become so legal and
Yeah.
popular. Look at the statistics of people that are getting hit and run, and a lot of them, when they catch these guys, they're not drunk or anything.
Yeah.
So it kind of shows it can be distracting.
I
doing
think
these
car
smoke
accidents
weed.
are going to go up with the
They
legalization
have
of
already went
cannabis.
up.
Car accidents are going
Oh,
to go
for
up.
sure. Certainly.
So if we know that car accidents are going to go up, where do we invest our money? Do we open an auto accident firm? What do we do?
well,
Because I think car
compete
accidents are
with
going to
Uber.
rise.
I think
How do we make this?
I think alcohol.
Yeah,
and,
but I think people smoking weed, it's went up too, because you see more and more people riding a bike or something, they get hit by a car. You see
So that's
mothers
my thing.
crossing the street, they get hit by a
If
car.
we can foresee the future and auto accidents are going up because of the legalization of cannabis, where do we take our money and invest it to capitalize off of that foreseeing of the future?
I think right
That's
now
what I've asked myself.
cannabis
Maybe
is just
open
a
a
money
funeral home.
industry.
Open up emergency rooms.
Emergency rooms, hospitals.
Well, you certainly do that.
People are getting in these accidents on these scooters. One of the biggest increase of injuries is from those scooters. I've talked to a number of doctors in the emergency room.
Oh wow.
Every day.
Oh, is that right?
Several
Is that right?
off those scooters, motorized scooters.
That's another place when you look at the motorized scooters, similar to weed and alcohol. There's going to have to be some type of government regulation, because you see people just flying down the street with those, and the head trauma, the potential for head trauma, is just massive. And just like on a motorcycle, if you in Ohio, they don't require you to wear helmets. We don't require helmets here.
But they have to sign a
on the
waiver.
scooters. Oh, is that right? On the
Yes,
scooters, they have to sign a waiver.
now.
Oh, I didn't know that. However, if you get into head trauma, or you get into an accident on the freeway, street, 35 miles an hour, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. I mean, you lose your life more likely. You know, I've actually seen people that have had head trauma, and we've actually taken them to surgery. And when we've actually, when someone hits their head, when you hit their head, what happens is you have a swelling. There's a natural swelling. If you hit your knee, you hit your arm, ankle. You ever had someone just punch you and you see your body swells up? Well, your brain is the same thing. Your brain is essentially a muscle. And I've actually been in surgery with people where they've had head trauma, and you're really trying to decompress their brain. And when you actually, insert a hole, air, anything, the brain at times will feel it just explode out.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's really, and so that's a place I think we need regulation. I'm wondering if that's where we're at with marijuana, because marijuana, there's a need there. Alcohol, we certainly need the regulation. I think alcohol is more of a burden to society right now than a weed is. I'm pretty sure it is, because alcohol is something where if you come into the hospital, if you were to come into the hospital today and you didn't have weed, I could probably manage you. If you were an alcoholic and you didn't have your alcohol, it is so difficult to manage these people. You have to give them Ativan, and they're seizing, and you're trying to figure out why they're seizing, and their blood pressure is going up to a point where they're going to have a stroke, and you're wondering how to manage that.
It's because their body's used to having alcohol every day.
Right.
Now, looking this up and just Googling it, they say alcohol is still the main contributor to vehicle crashes.
Unquestionably.
But it doesn't mean marijuana doesn't contribute. They say because, especially in the younger generation, because they get to tripping and they're on their phones, they say phones too.
I got to tell you, I think more of a burden to driving, for me, probably my biggest risk to losing my life is texting and driving. I shouldn't do that. But I think everyone does. When you look next to the person, you don't text and drive?
No, I don't.
Lee, do you text and drive?
Yes, he does.
Lee does?
In the case of an emergency.
I've
been in the car with him. And
he texts and
Very
drives.
dangerous.
Very dangerous to do.
My son,
but I'll bet you that's a bigger
my son sold
risk
his car
than
because
drinking.
he'd rather take an Uber because he's the worst driver. Because he texts us, I've gotten out of his car. I tell him, let me out. And he don't want to let me out. Wait for that car to stop. I'm jumping. I'm doing a tuck and roll and getting the hell out of his car. So he doesn't drive any longer, and I feel so relieved.
Yeah.
Because people don't realize what an accident really means. An accident, you didn't know it was going to happen. So quit texting and driving.
For sure.
And him too.
Yeah, for sure. That if anyone that's listening, you do want to try to avoid that, because it's
dangerous.
Yeah, it's dangerous. It is dangerous, and that's probably more of a risk than smoking marijuana.
Especially somebody's going 65 miles and they're
it probably
at
is
their
more of a
phone.
threat.
It's like, you can pull over. I'll walk on this freeway because my chances of surviving probably will be walking better than sitting in this car with you while you're texting.
Back to the need for society to make money. Did you know in California they're actually wanting to tax text messages?
No, they pulled that off. They're not doing it.
Well, I think the federal government.
No,
actually,
they're not. They said today it's not going to happen.
The reason they said it's not going to happen is because the federal government said that would violate either some FCC rules. But you're right.
Why should we have to pay for people's phones? That's what it really was about. Is they feel it'll cover all the free phones they're giving. But I know so many people with free phones. It's like, how about going and getting a damn job? You know what I'm saying? Get a job.
Carol, you're a Trump supporter.
No, I'm not. I hate Trump.
Yeah, you sound like a Trump supporter over there.
No, I think people should get a damn job. I'm serious. I'm tired of seeing people have 5 and 6 babies and they live on welfare. Because to me, if you're able to have sex and have those babies, then damn it, you should be able to support those kids. It's not fair to the kids. Hey, there's lots of education out there that's offered for free. So there's no excuse.
Well, Carol, I tell you, you're quite the paradox, because in the next statement, you're going to complain because we're not letting migrants in. I mean,
I don't like that. I really don't, because you're a migrant as far as I'm concerned. Go back in history. You don't look Native American to me. So how do you feel that you're any different because it's years later down the road? What the hell? Why is it always Latins? Now we got this in China going on. They're putting Arabs in concentration camps. So this is what's going on. It's like it's flying to each country now. It's not right. It's not right. And my granddaughter's Mexican, and her family's Mexican, and I don't understand it because you know what? I don't see white people out there, and I don't see blacks out there selling fruit either, or making hot dogs on the street, unless you go into certain areas where they are working, they're barbecuing and talk. You know what I'm saying? But why are you condemning them? They work their asses off.
Oh, I'm not condemning anyone.
You know, if you're going to put people out, then put some of these people from Europe out. Put out these Russians and these other races. They come here and they bring their gangs with them too. They don't talk about the Russian mafia, do they?
Yeah. Well, the problem that I have with not just migrants, but things are just.
I'm going to ask you again. What nationality is your housekeeper or your gardener?
Well,
are they white? I'll put money they're Latin. They're either Latin or Asian.
Well,
so there it is right there. You're a hypocrite.
No, I'm not a hypocrite.
Yes,
First
you are
of all,
a hypocrite. Why are you hiring them?
First of all, my housekeeper looks white.
I don't care what she looks. If she's Hispanic, she's Hispanic.
Just because she speaks a certain language doesn't mean she is.
Are you paying her taxes? Are you taking money out every week when you use her? Or
First
are
of
you
all,
writing her a check under the table?
No, I don't put it under the table. I put it under the mat. When she comes in,
so you see what I'm saying, Wallace? This is how a lot of people are here, and I'm sorry. Now they want to put the Haitians out. But you never see where they want to put the Russians or the people from London or people. I just feel this is a country that's supposed to be diverse. And I don't know what happened that we've become so hateful.
I don't think it's hateful.
Come on, we just had a kid die. They let him sit for an hour. That kid didn't have to die. You know what? That kid hadn't eaten or drank water for, 2 days?
Well, I think the parent disputes that if you listen to it.
I'm not blaming the parents.
But the parent says that his kid was very well taken care of. Yeah.
It's messed up to me. I'm sorry. We've never been this kind of country. Let these people in. But sure, you need to check them out and make sure they're not criminals that are coming over here and that. But they're running from wars. I mean, could you imagine our country if this happened here and we had to run from here? Well, us that don't have a bunch of money, we're going to be in that position. We're going to be walking to get somewhere. Now, wealthy people will be long gone.
But, Carol, these people are here for money. Even the migrants.
They're here to make money.
The migrants are saying that they actually want $50,000 per person. Do you have any kids that live at home
that don't work? Answer that.
That's an unfair question.
Are you going to, why don't they go pick fruit? We need our fruit picked. How come you aren't putting them out there to pick fruit? I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, that's a good question.
I'm against it. I wouldn't want my kids, but you know what?
These migrants want $50,000 apiece to go back to Honduras.
Yeah, I don't blame them because they
is that fair?
All the way here.
No way.
Is that fair?
They thought they could come here and we would help them, and we've never been a country that didn't help people.
Carol, really helping people today, and it goes back to my insulin. No, insulin
it goes back to
$400 a vial. Huh. Carol, she just likes it better that way.
Why aren't you writing her a check and taking out taxes? Is it because she might not have a Social Security number?
Oh, Carol, that's a terrible thing to say about my housekeeper. My housekeeper's a wonderful. That's horrible. It's horrible. My housekeeper's a wonderful person.
She is, and I'm all for her staying here. Believe me. That's why I'm glad they just granted that they get vendor license now, and
she are on the radio. We don't want to get the housekeeper picked up.
Oh my God! No, but I would not use someone.
I'm against anybody.
Honestly,
to be honest,
if I knew my housekeeper was here illegally, I would not use her.
Yes, you would. Why are you putting money under your mat? We're going to have to go steal his money. What day did she come?
Right.
Since we stole the tree, what day did she come?
Yeah. You know, I bought by the way, talking about tree, I bought a Christmas tree. What do you think Christmas trees cost nowadays?
A lot.
Los Angeles, about $150.
Yeah, Christmas trees are really expensive.
Could it be
nowadays.
because of all the fires? Maybe there's less trees.
Well, they said it was a big shortage going on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they do that all the time. Even with marijuana, they do the same thing. There's a shortage, and come Thanksgiving, oh God, there's a shortage of turkeys, and next Halloween, oh no,
it's a business strategy.
There's no pumpkins, no pumpkin pie.
You buy the tree the night before, and that way you don't pay hardly nothing.
Now, how much your tree was? 150.
I think I paid maybe 139.
And what did your ornaments cost?
Well, we keep the same
I don't
ornaments
have a
that
tree
we
'cause
have.
of my
Oh gosh, if you ever have a chance to come over, my wife does such a wonderful job, and all my girls and my family, we do such a wonderful job with Christmas. It's just a blessing.
And I love
to
your
be-
girls. I
Oh
wasn't
God,
putting
and
them down. I was just giving you a.
No, we love you too,
Question.
Carol. Carol is like Carol's family. If you guys ever listen to my show, you guys will notice Carol attacks me without me attacking her back. But we love you to death, Carol. I really
That's what
do.
makes our show so wonderful.
Yeah, that's what makes our show. And thanks for listening. We are this is Mondays with Wallace, and this is Flight 420 out of Los Angeles. I'm here with Steve Cotton from SC Edibles. I'm here with Brandon Tidwell from
Sweet Daddy Edibles.
well, yeah, what phone number? Someone asked me your phone number for you.
Yeah, you can reach me 310-703-6444.
Do you just do edibles, or do you do other stuff? or-
I do regular desserts. and
Regular
infusions,
desserts?
Yeah.
Yeah, doesn't your mom have a regular bakery?
Oh no, she doesn't have a bakery, but she does food catering.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
And that's what you all do. Is there? I'm just curious. Back to how we clean your products, and have you seen your prices go up or down or stabilize?
Prices with
With
the
let's
actual product
say,
I'm selling.
yeah, I think you had something that I had seen on your website. It was a country bowl, and that seemed to be pretty well priced. Say,
Oh yeah, really, it's really well priced.
yeah, it seemed to be really well priced. Has that price gone up or down?
Price has gone up, but quantities have gone up as well.
Oh, is that right?
So we found a way to kind of give people more food, but charge just a little bit more so that it makes sense for both of us.
And when I say the price has gone up, I noticed an entree was $15. Is that correct?
Yes.
And is that something that would fill me up, or?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's
Is
a
that
lot
for
of
one
food.
person
It comes
or
with a
two?
dessert. I mean, it's for one person, but honestly, two people could eat off of it. It's really
Yeah.
that much food.
Now,
15 really isn't bad, though.
No, it's not.
Well,
I mean,
for
you can
Los
easily pay
Angeles, it's
$10
not
at
bad.
McDonald's.
Look what you pay in the grocery store for those food that are already prepared,
Exactly.
and you still got to cook it.
Exactly.
Now, who wants to go home and cook it? Now, there is somebody that is competing with people. It's called Every Table or something. What they're doing is they're making it where people of all different incomes can buy this prepared food, and their food is cooked. But now, if you go over to their place in Santa Monica, you're going to pay triple. But if you go over by USC, because all the college kids are able to buy from these people, I've even went over there and I put it in my freezer and treat them like TV dinners. And
geographically, we find that things are different prices anywhere, even insulin or drugs for that matter. If you get drugs that are sent to you from, say, Kentucky or Ohio, they're a lot cheaper. If you go buy barbecue ribs, if you go buy barbecue ribs on Melrose, you're paying a premium price. By the
isn't
same
that
token,
sad because the best ribs.
but
are,
if you go
in
buy
the
ribs
hood.
over on Slauson, I don't know if you've ever been to
Woody's.
what's the place on Slauson, Woody's.
Yeah.
The prices are really good. You can get a slab.
What's
Well,
that one that begins with a D or something everybody goes to? I don't eat pork,
Phillips?
so.
Phillips barbecue.
Yeah, Phillips. That
Yeah.
begins with the
What do
P.
you think a slab of ribs costs? What do you think a slab of ribs costs?
$25-$30.
About $20. Yeah. But by the same token, if you go buy a slab of ribs over on Melrose near Hollywood, you're paying about $35-$40.
Yeah, for sure.
Is weed the same way?
It is. It's very similar. What's interesting is on the East Coast, a pound could easily go for $3,000.
Is that right?
$2,500, $3,000, $3,500, where we would pay anywhere from maybe $1,000 to $1,500 at the highest.
Is that right?
So it's still, because of the legalization in different states or lack thereof, there's a lot of price differentiation throughout the country.
I'd like to know the answer, but I don't know the answer to this. Can you actually sell weed products? Weed is legal in Michigan now. Can we sell weed from Los Angeles? Can we mail it to Los Angeles to Michigan?
But still a federal issue. So as long as it's still federal illegal, and then
State line?
and that's a federal offense.
That's a federal
I sent
offense.
you a thing on the laws.
Is that right?
Yeah, if you look at your texting, I sent you stuff that.
So the answer is you cannot?
Do not mail any marijuana to any states, even if that state
Well, you
is
can
legal.
mail it if you put it
Do
in
not.
metal tape.
Well, what if
They can't
but it's
detect
illegal?
it if you wrap it in
Even
metal
if it's
tape.
legal in Michigan, you cannot mail marijuana through the mail.
Is that right?
Actually, my daughter was driving.
Could you drive
some-
it? Could you
No,
drive
you're not
marijuana?
supposed to smoke either when you're driving.
That's called trafficking. You will go to jail.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're not
I
supposed
will.
to be
But
driving.
if you need it to be transported, call me. I know some people.
I bet you do.
No,
So-
today my daughter drove somebody, and he couldn't get on. He knew he couldn't get on the plane. He gave her all his weed and his edibles.
There, if you go to LAX now, there's even a place where you can put your weed. So if you want to, oh my God, I just realized I have a pound of marijuana in my bag, and there's a spot where you can deposit it, and they do destroy it, or who knows what they do with it.
Oh,
but
I'm sure
there's
they
an actual
don't destroy
mechanism
it.
to actually, just disposing of marijuana. This is Mondays with Wallace. I'm Wallace. You can get us every Mondays on the Power of Voices Radio Network. I'm with Lee Michaels, my producer. We're here, thankfully, with Josefa Salinas in Culver City. We are live every Monday from Los Angeles. Actually, it's Culver City, but we even say Hollywood sometimes. This is Flight 420 out of Los Angeles. We are out. Thanks for being here, guys. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Carol, thanks for being here. Goodbye, everyone.